Minnesotan, is that how you say it? From this area. He has been the biggest help. He's one of our leaders here, as well as Luca. He put in a lot of time, a lot of hours to making this event possible. So it is my honor to introduce Daren and Rhoda Mehl.
Hey family. Hello. Hallelujah. Well, I want to introduce my family real quick that are behind me. This is my son Sebastian, he's 5. This is my wife Rhoda.
I'm 46.
And this is Esther, she's 4. And I want to thank Jesus for this moment and for my family. There was a lot of people that told me that this was never going to happen. In 7th grade, I had girls tell me when I wanted to take a girl to the dance that no girl would ever date me, that no girl would ever date me. And you know, when we're kids, we think like kids, and we're learning who we are by those around us. And people are speaking into our lives, and we're taking on the identity that people are telling us. And when those girls said that no girl would date me, I started to believe them. And when I cried on my stepmother's lap, telling her what the girls said to me, she told me to go to my room and that she didn't want to hear it. And so that cemented in me a belief that I wasn't worthy of women or of girls. And then in high school, I was, relentlessly picked on for not being athletic, and the last person that's always picked. It was quite painful. But I was kind of bullied into the gay identity, and I was told that I was gay and queer, and my best friend's like, no, he's not. He's really not. But not being able to date girls and just being attacked by so many women, I couldn't find anyone to love me. And so I went into the gay lifestyle. And I lived as a gay identified man for 10 years. And while in that lifestyle, I had a brother in the faith. I had come to know Christ when I was 17, but I still went and lived as a gay identified man because I didn't have the answers to how to deal with that. And I had a brother pray with me and say, do you really think that God made you gay? And I said, I don't know, but I'm attracted to men, and I don't know what to do with that, and I don't want to be single my whole life, because that's what all my Christian friends says. Well, you just should be single then and just be celibate and be a celibate gay attracted man. And I'm like, no, I want love. I want to love and be loved. And so I said, if God doesn't want me to be gay, then God, I said, you're going to have to break me up with my boyfriend because I can't do it. And he says, okay. So we prayed, and then I prayed, and he asked me, he says, well, if you were to marry someone, who would you marry? I said, well, there's only one woman that I know. Her name's Rhoda. But this woman, she knows that I'm a gay man, and she's dating a guy I broke up with, so I don't know how that'll work out. And so I prayed, and I said, God, if it's your will that I'm not gay, then I want to marry Rhoda. And so the next day I got home from the prayer service, and my boyfriend dumped me. And and so that landed an opportunity for me to start being friends with Rhoda more, and I eventually asked her to date me, and she said yes. And then I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. And then we got married. And coming into our marriage, it was she knew me as a gay man, and I told God, I said, God, I love this woman, and I'm going to marry her because I love her. And she was the first person that said, Daren, because when I asked her to date me, I said, Rhoda, I'm struggling with same-sex attraction, and I don't want that. I believe that Jesus doesn't want that for me. But and she was the first person that said, Daren, I want to love you for who Christ has made you to be. And she had the faith. She was a woman of faith who believed in who God created me to be. And she was the first person that let me take my mask off and be myself.
Amen. Hallelujah.
And this woman of mercy and grace loved me for 7 years. And for the first 7 years of my marriage, I was addicted to gay porn. And in the 7th year, I acted out and I broke our marriage covenant. And in that 7 years, I tried so hard to pray away the gay. I tried so hard to be righteous, and I'd say, God, give me the strength to not sin. And after 7 years of trying that, I failed. And I learned something in that experience. I learned that my self-righteousness is not going to do it. It's not going to cut it. The grace that God gave me after I cheated on my wife, and it's hard to say that, in that moment, I knew that I was a sinner, and I knew God revealed to me that my self-righteousness wasn't going to cut it, that I needed him. And I laid it out. I said, God, I know that you're a good God, and I know that I'm a sinner. And even though I was living, 20 years as a believer and married, I didn't think that I was that much of a sinner. I thought I'd really put it together. But that's not true. You can't do it on your own. And I love Jesus, and I wanted to please Jesus, and I'm like, Jesus, help me to please you. But it's not by my righteousness, it's by his alone. And in that moment, I received the grace. And he set me free of pornography that week. Rhoda, in her mercy and grace, received me back. And then, after a year, when God had set me free of pornography addiction, he then turned off the darkness that was coming into my life. And he taught me, I made a covenant with my eyes with God, and I said, God, when I see a man that I'm attracted to, I'm going to look away, and you're going to give me the grace to not look back, because I've tried for 7 years and it didn't work. And that grace is real. It is tangible. I serve a living God. Jesus is alive, and his grace is sufficient for the works that he's doing in us. Amen. And so in that year, God brought a brother alongside of me in the faith that helped me get over my body shaming. He took me to the gym. And I saw my body changed, because one of the things being in sports, or not being in sports rather, was I was body shamed. I was told that I kicked like a girl, swung like a girl, ran like a girl, and I didn't feel like a man. And my brother Jimmy, he helped me connect with my masculinity and in my body. And God, one day when I said, God, when am I going to be healed? He said, go running without your shirt on. I'm like, well, that's kind of strange. I'm like, okay. And so I went running, and I got about a half a block, and I fell down on my knees because God had healed me. God said, Daren, you would have never done this before. And he said, when was the last time you looked at a man lustfully? I said, I don't know. He says, you've been healed. And in that moment, I realized my healing it was God. And I looked back, and I didn't know all the things, all the darkness. He had healed all these different places in my life. The body shame, the father wound, the mother wound, the girls wound, the girls who said that nobody ever date me. And this woman loved me through it. Amen. Woo!
So, you're not going to get out of here without me saying something. Daren, so I'm wearing my shirt. It says imperfect, but it also says I'm perfect. And I think it's an important thing, because the day that God always knows, right? You think you're hiding, and you think that there's some things that the Lord doesn't see, but that's an absolute lie. And that the day that, well, I guess, I don't know, 5 days, I have no idea what the timeline is, but that Sunday, at our church, they had opened up the altar and had asked for anyone that's struggling with sexual sin to come down, and Daren came down, and I was like, well, that's interesting. And the Lord said to me, Rhoda, go talk to your husband and tell him that you don't follow him because he's perfect, but you follow him because he loves Jesus perfectly. And I have to say, hon, that through thick and thin, that is the absolute best way to honor you, is that you love Jesus perfectly, and it's an honor to be your wife.
Amen. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for this